Hi everyone, I'm the Plant Propagator and welcome to my channel. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about what I do, please subscribe to my channel. Today I want to talk to you and show you a fertilizer application, at least the fertilizer application regime that I use. And this, you'll hear a lot of different approaches on fertilizer, when to fertilize, how much to use, really all types of variations on fertilizer application. What I want to do is show you what I do. And what I do has evolved over the years from starting with just a few orchids to the collection that I now have. That's about 200 orchids. and I've grown orchids inside, and I'm currently growing most of my orchids outside. And what I'll try to do is share with you a little bit of information about what I used to do with the orchids when I was growing them inside, and then what I do now and how things have changed. So first of all, when to apply fertilizer. I like to apply fertilizer once a week. In the orchids that are around me, they are under the irrigation system that's on my house here, and so they get irrigated not for a long time, but 3 days a week for about 10 minutes. So just enough to moisten the roots. And then I fertilize them on another day, and that's to give them time to kind of dry out and ready to go. There are questions about when you should fertilizer, as far as how long after rain, or should you water with water first and then fertilizer. And then I really don't pay as much attention to that as I should. I just water the same day every week. It ends up that they get irrigated the day before, and I don't know whether that matters or not. So let me just show you about the method that I used to use and the method that I now use for fertilization of my orchids. So I use a variety of different fertilizers, and I had a YouTube video previously on the types of fertilizers that are available to you. And I use, this is just standard Miracle-Gro fertilizer, and I use the application rate that is meant for indoor plants on my orchids growing outdoors. So they give you this scooper with the fertilizer, and the tablespoon, which is the largest scoop on here, is for outdoor fertilizer of outdoor plants. Again, I don't use those on my orchids, but I use the indoor fertilizers, which fertilizer level, which is half a teaspoon. And it's not the metric system, so it's difficult to figure out how things go. But a tablespoon is equal to 3 teaspoons, and we use a half a teaspoon for a gallon of water. Again, I'm sorry, not the metric system. So this is what we have to use here, and these are the measurements that we have to deal with. So what I'm going to do is right here, this is a half of a teaspoon, and I'm going to mix this with, right here you can't see it, a gallon of water. All right, and this is the way that I used to fertilize. I used to make up a gallon at a time, and normally what you do is you put the fertilizer in here, of course, and then add the water, and it mixes up the fertilizer. But I didn't have time, and I don't have water conveniently back here, so we'll kind of mix it up like this. There's a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, there's a little bit of a bluish tinge to this fertilizer, and that's a dye that the Miracle-Gro people and really all fertilizer companies include in their fertilizer. So it's just a really benign, safe dye that they put in there. And then all you do, it's not hard, is just water your plant. Let me show you this plant, if I can, a little heavier than I thought it would be. So this plant, and this is if you're watering inside, and I've got this plant that just started flowering a few weeks ago. Really nicely fragrant, and the second, I'm excited because the new flowers on the second flower spike opened. But what you do is you just water it, and you try to water it all the way around. And most of my orchids are in a real porous medium. This is, I think, mostly leca, and what happens when you water in LECA is it just goes right through. I have a container, a saucer underneath it, and what I do inside is I water my orchids with a low level of fertilizer so that it just goes through. And I don't know if you can tell, so it's dripping a little out of the bottom of this pot. So when it goes through, then I'm done, and then I move on to the next one. But I try to splash it all the way around because there's roots throughout the pot in order to make sure that all the roots are moistened and take up the fertilizer solution. Now the thing is, when I was growing these orchids inside, what I would do is only water them once a week. And what happens when you water once a week with a constant level of fertilizer, you can get salt buildup in here. With my orchids, when I was growing them inside, I would grow them inside because it was cold inside in the winter. But then I take them outside in the spring and I hang them on the trees. Actually, I had a cable going from one tree to the other, and I hung all of my orchids, even in the northern climates. I hung my orchids across this cable outside, and I still would fertilize once a week. But then the rains would wash all of the excess salt buildup out of this pot. So if you do it inside, if you have plants that are always inside, it's probably a good idea. Once you see salt accumulating on the top of the container, it's a good idea to wash this out. Okay, so that's how I water. You just water it so that I'll show you here again. And this is another situation where you just kind of, and that didn't take long. So you just wash it, and what happens with this when you just, yeah, I'll do it again. It just pours right out. It's not in there for very long, and it doesn't seem like you're actually applying too much water, but you are, and it's enough. Again, one of the best ways to kill your orchid is with overwatering. Give it too much water, or pack the stuff in around the roots that retain too much water, and then the roots will dry. I mean, again, remember, the roots of the orchids just are attached to trees, and they get the water and then they dry out quickly, so they don't need a bunch of water. So again, when I had when I just had a few orchids, I would use this, and this works just fine. And then again, you can go through here and splash the plants. I'm outside, it doesn't matter. You can splash your plants and water them. You'll go through this pretty quickly. A lot of the water goes through. It's a quick splash and it goes through. It would be probably better to apply it at a slower application rate, which we'll get to in just a second. All right. If you have more orchids, just use this. So this is a gallon, this is 2 gallons, and again, you put the fertilizer in here, add the water, and it's all good, and then you just water your orchids. The problem is, I don't know if you can tell, I have some of my orchids high, 2 gallons, there's some weight associated with it, so you got to pick this up and get pretty high up in order to water. And so that's really not the best situation. And if you're hearing wind, which I imagine you are, it's a beautiful day here, and it's windy, and I hope you tolerate the wind with me. Feels great, but it probably is interrupting with the microphone here. So this is fine, and this is twice as much as this, so you can get away with less trips to the water in order to get this filled up. The way that I do my watering now is not with either of these watering things. I actually use, because I have more orchids and because I sought really a method that would let me water a little bit more slowly and more thoroughly and hit an application area. These are pretty imprecise, and I got to get this. So what I use now is this is a 4-gallon Chapin sprayer. It's a backpack sprayer, and this is what I use, and it works great. And I can pick it up pretty easily with one hand because there's nothing in it. This is pretty heavy when it's filled with water, and when it fills with water, you just put it on your back like this. So this is my spraying wand, and there is a pump. So once the fertilizer is in there, and I'll show you how I do this in just a second. So there's the pump that's right here that I can get some pressure in there, and this is my spray wand. And what the spray wand does, and I'll show you, I'll fill up and show you this, but what the spray wand does is it allows you to apply pretty precisely throughout, all in the watering area. It's also, because it's a spray, it's a slower application rate. It's the same type of thing though. You spray until you see with these plants the water coming out of the bottom of the container, and then you're good. It works on the potted plants here. It works great on all of my orchids that are mounted on the trees, and what I want to do is show you how I actually use this spray applicator on some of the orchids around my house. So hold on and I'll get this guy filled up and I'll show you how it looks. Okay, I am mounted up. This is a little awkward because I'm doing the pump and the spray in one hand, but you can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing here. So this is going to apply, and then you can see dripping out of the bottom. So that's all it takes. I'll go into the next pot and just water it good. I mean, the one thing that you need to be a little careful about is that I try not to have, I don't know how well you can see this, I try not to have the wand touch the plants as far as getting, any kind of transmission. Here's a Vanda right here, and this is just, that's how you water the Vanda. Really nothing to it, not a big deal. I've got, here's some board mounted orchids up here. And you can't see it very well, but this is how I'm watering those. So, but that's essentially how it's done. Here's again another Vanda, another just Cattleya in Leca right here, and it's starting to come out a little slow because I need to pump it up. But it's really easy. Here's some seedlings right here, and you just kind of go around and water this. This is a little awkward, so I'm not going to show you everything, but I wanted to show you just a few plants and how this works and how easy it is to go from plant to plant and just water everything really quickly. So let's take a look at watering some of the orchids. Well, I tell you what, I've got this, again, this new favorite of mine here. Can't see it really well, but so is a Vanda right here. That's how you water it. And the nice thing about watering like this is that here, I'll go ahead and get some of these Vandas here. So here's a Vanda again. These are seedlings. It's doing real well. I'm getting the foliage. Normally you don't need to do that, but what happens is you kind of get the roots and you water and the tree is watered, and what happens is the roots kind of absorb the water. It stays a little wetter on the tree, and they just keep on absorbing. Another Vanda right here, and again, it's just really simple to water these plants and hit the roots from this Vanda with this spray. Another Vanda back here, got some nice new roots growing out of the side of it. But I want to take you and show you how I water, how convenient it is, and how I water all of the orchids on my date palms. So I'm going to stop and then head to the date palms and show you how I fertilize those. Okay, so these are some of the orchids on my date palm, and this is just so convenient to water these with this wand and to fertilize them. I'm sorry, with this wand. Again, the nice thing about this is that you apply just the level that you need. I'm not trying to get the leaves, but it's hard to miss them when you do this, and you kind of hit just get the tree overall, and just really a range of things. in here. The nice thing about it is I've seen videos and I've seen people that just water and just, fertilize and just completely overdo it. And you know, one of the issues that you have, certainly in today's environment, where you just don't want to over fertilize, you don't want to get this into the into the groundwater, and you don't want to do that. So here I'm just applying the fertilizer that I need. You just don't overdo it. That's not a good idea to just overdo your fertilizer application and have it run off and get into the groundwater. And you can see, you know, that this is just a minimal amount. I'm sorry, I'm not holding things as straight as I could be, but it's just a minimal amount of water and of fertilizer that's being applied, and these plants tend to do really well. I want to show you my other tree, just because I've got my first flowers on my Momolani rainbow, and I already pollinated one of them, so we'll see what I get out of it. But again, this is all there is to it. You just apply this fertilizer in a sprayer until it until it drips off, and that's fine. If you overdo it a little bit, a little bit drops off, and that's fine. I'm also fertilizing my date palm tree when I do this, and it's fine. It doesn't cause any issues. It's a mist. You can tell it's a mist that I'm spraying, and I don't overdo it. So it's enough to get the roots wet, and these orchids here are apparently doing well with this level of fertilizer and this level of watering that I'm giving to them. Oh, forgot to get that dendrobium right there. These dendrobiums some of these dendrobiums are over. Some of them seem to be just starting. But what I do more than, get the plant, is I just get the tree, which is what the roots are attaching to. So this is obviously a much better way of fertilizing. And what I found is and when I say I got 200 plants, these are mature plants. I've got a lot more. I've got hundreds, if not thousands, of seedlings. But I can usually get away with watering everything. New one right up here. We'll see. We'll see how it grows, if it grows. But let's we'll see how all this works. And I get away with using 4 gallons on fertilizing all of my orchids, which is fine. I only have to fill up once. So that's all I have for today. If you're interested in learning more about what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and happy propagating.